The Game Boy Advance was Nintendo's little handheld that could fit in your pocket and in your ass. Before we had handhelds capable of playing some of the big AAA titles like the Switch and the Steam Deck, we had the Game Boy series. The Game Boy Advance was just around that corner of technology when it was new. It was the finger before the granny squirt. It was the fist before the prolapse. It was the fat nut before the crushing clarity. Without it, we wouldn't have gotten the Nintendo DS, 3DS, and eventually the Switch. Despite its size, the GBA was surprisingly capable when it came to its visuals. It's right up there with Super Nintendo and PS1 when it comes to sprite work, and some developers were really able to push what was possible in the GBA, resulting in some incredible graphics. So grab your old GBA and scrub the cum off the screen. In this video I'm going over some of the most graphically impressive games on the Game Boy Advance.
No, don't do it. I'm a virgin.
Golden Sun is a JRPG developed by Camelot, and is probably one of the most obvious choices for a list like this. You play as a main character named Kenny Curvecock, who one day happens upon a crashed alien spaceship and goes aboard to clap some alien cheeks. And if it sounds like I made that up, it's because I did.
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Just the opening little town you start off in has some amazing sprite work and animation. The waterfall that runs through town is incredibly well done. Entering any of the buildings shows a good attention to detail, with lined bookshelves and tables with cups and pots sitting on them. There's a ray of sun that shines through the windows of the buildings as well. It's a nice touch that makes these places feel like people's homes, rather than just a generic interior. The world map shows off an almost 3D environment, with trees and mountains that look like they're protruding straight up into my anus. Entering battle shows just how crazy Camelot went with this game. Golden Sun accomplishes a 3D effect in battle by using dramatic camera angles and character sprite animation. Basic attacks and actions look cool on their own, with a good sense of weight and power. Where the game really goes crazy is in the spell and summon animations. The fact that the GBA is capable of such effects is awesome. Summoning any of your Jinn harem will treat the player with elaborate and epic animations of your little collectible Pokemon busting all over the faces and chests of your enemies. Golden Sun is not only a great JRPG series, it also shows the excellent visuals that the GBA is capable of.
Smoking dick and sucking dick, baby!
Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga is a role-playing game featuring everyone's favorite codependent, incestuous plumber brothers, releasing in 2003. On top of having excellent gameplay, Superstar Saga displays some of the most fluid, expressive character sprites in all the land. My first time playing through this game and seeing some of the best animation in video games on the tiny GBA screen had me opening my mouth wide for some extra spicy Italian sausage, rubbing all over my lips and slapping my cheeks.
We always take something away from every meeting we have.
The way the brothers animate in and out of battle gives this game heaps of character and charm. Luigi in particular does some goofy shit, like his dumb little dance when selecting an action or choosing what stats to increase when leveling up. The game wastes no time in getting to the goods, opening with Mario frantically running out of his house in just his towel, hammer cock swinging in the wind, and dragging his brother along with him. The very first battle in the game is against Bowser, who is attempting yet again to kidnap Princess Peach so he can clap them cheeks until they're crimson red. The very first battle gives you a taste of what's to come in the following hours. Big, detailed sprites with great animation and expression. As you progress through the game, you'll come across several dozen different enemies with their own unique sprite, idle, and attack animations, as well as some spectacular boss fights. Progress also gives you access to special moves called Bros attacks, and are one of the flashiest aspects of the battle system. They show off some cool graphical flourishes that, just like with everything else in the game, are really well animated and overflowing with comedy and charm. Superstar Saga is easily one of the best playing and looking games on the GBA.
Holy shit! Did you just come in your sister?
Metroid Fusion is a 2D action game released in 2002 and features everyone's favorite glizzy goblin bounty hunter Samus Aran. Samus, who is exploring a planet known as SR-388, is infected with a parasite simply called X. After losing consciousness and crashing her ship, the doctors providing her medical care discover that the X parasite has fused itself with Samus's booty sweat. And it should have been me, goddammit. Upon waking up, Samus's adventure begins. Unlike the last handheld Metroid game, which took place in a depressing abyss, Fusion takes place in a terrifying abyss. The backgrounds are reminiscent of those in Super Metroid, with each area within the game having its own themed background with parallax scrolling as well. This makes the game feel much bigger than it actually is, and contributes to a sense of scale on the GBA's small screen. Metroid Fusion has an almost horror atmosphere when compared to other Metroid games. The early game reveal of the SAX imitation of Samus, with its up-close portrait and lifeless blank eyes, startled me so bad, I jumped up from my seat and landed really hard on my nutsack, causing my balls to pop like grapes. I had to have them replaced with bowling balls. Different areas of the game have their own distinct theme and graphical flourishes, such as the lush, detailed overgrown foliage, and an area that's covered in this cool fog effect. Turning in all of an area's lighting except for a small radius around Samus when she's being hunted by her doppelganger is also a great touch. It turns up the tension whenever it happens. It reminds me of when my uncle used to chase me around the house in the middle of the night, asking if I wanted to be tickled on the inside. Metroid Fusion is not only one of the best games on the GBA, but is so graphically impressive it looks like it could have come out today as a modern Metroidvania game.
Holy mother of God!
Kirby and the Amazing Mirror is a 2D side-scrolling action game, and also kind of a Metroidvania, releasing in 2004. You get to play as everyone's favorite sentient anal prolapse, power-sucking the souls out of your foes as you steal their powers. Kirby sets out on a quest to a mirror world where he tries to reinsert himself into the anus that he fell out of. One of the most immediately striking aspects of the visuals in this game is the backgrounds. They look almost like pastel paintings, and there are unique backgrounds for all 9 areas of the game's single-player mode. Kirby takes advantage of the GBA's strengths like other titles on this list, with incredible sprites and animations. Kirby's basic movements and attacks are super smooth, and are complemented well by enemy abilities that he's able to copy. There's a unique sprite and several unique animations for all the enemy abilities in this game. Kirby gets a Rambo bandana and a Shoryuken. He gets a little baseball cap and can rev himself up into a rolling tire. He even gets a chef hat, and there's a funny little cooking animation that plays where he gathers up all the veggies. There are 25 enemy abilities to try out, and the attention to detail when making them all look and feel different from each other is great. Top it all off with some great boss designs and a solid 60 FPS frame rate, and Kirby and the Amazing Mirror is one of the best looking platformers on the GBA, and in my opinion, one of the best looking Kirby games.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right now. I'm just stroking my...
Fire Emblem, The Blazing Blade is a tactical, turn-based RPG that was the 7th in the series, but the first to be officially localized in English. Although the series is one of Nintendo's biggest RPG franchises nowadays, it was almost completely unknown in the West when this game first came out. We had Martha and Roy in Smash Melee before we even got a single Fire Emblem game. The player takes control of an all-knowing, all-seeing god being that oversees and directly controls main characters during battle, and watches while Lyn takes a poop. The series has since moved on to fully 3D graphics for a long time at this point, but I still find myself enjoying the visuals of the GBA line of games much more than the visuals of recent releases. Overseeing battle shows you a detailed environment, with each mission having its own unique map with different terrain and hazards to play around. It's not just grassy plains and mountains either. You also get to do battle in towns and cities, as well as enemy castles. The highlight of this game is easily the sprites. When viewing the overhead map, every unit on the battlefield has these little 2-frame idle animations when waiting orders, and when they are highlighted, there's a second short animation that plays while you're selecting an action. Entering battle with enemy units shows some of the best visuals on the GBA as a platform. The sprites all look awesome, and have some epic attack animations as well. Every single class, as well as their advanced class, has their own unique sprite, and every sprite has its own set of animations, as well as some weighty critical strike animations that ramps up the excitement of the entire battle when you land one and decimate an enemy health bar in a single turn. Story segments are no slouch either. Although they don't feature any animation, every single character has their own fully drawn portrait, whether they're friend or foe. These little character portraits show a great amount of detail, especially considering the GBA's screen resolution. Fire Emblem on the GBA is a visual treat no matter how old it gets. It stands side by side with some of the modern Fire Emblem games, and its sprite work makes its graphics timeless. It will always look good, whether you play on the original handheld or emulation.
It's going up your butt.
The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap is a top-down action-adventure game developed by Capcom, releasing in 2004. As usual, the player takes control of the titular Zelda, this time sporting his toon look from Wind Waker. The environments in this game are incredibly well done. The amount of detail the developers were able to implement on the small GBA screen is awesome. As with most Zelda titles, the kingdom is separated into several distinct provinces or zones, each with their own visual theme. From the lush greenery of the Minish Woods to the stoic and jagged mountains of Mount Krenel, to the flowing waterfalls of your mom, this game manages to pack a fat sack of detail into its world. There's also a Goron at the top of Vale Springs that looks like a giant stupid baby. As you'd expect from a Zelda game, there are a handful of dungeons for you to conquer. These are also all visually distinct and have their own graphical flair. Cave of Flames has these cool bubbling lava pits with a smoky haze over top of the screen. The Temple of Droplets has pussy juice flowing from all corners, and my personal favorite, the Palace of Wind, which takes place in the sky above Hyrule. You can see the edges of the structure in certain rooms where you can see that you're floating above the clouds way up in the air. Each of these dungeons features their own boss, of course, and as you'd expect, they're a visual treat. Each boss has their own giant detailed sprite with unique animations specific to them. A favorite of mine is the Palace of Wind boss, which sees Link riding on top of flying mantis in the sky and jumping between them to fight them both. Minish Cap is easily one of the best looking 2D Zelda games, and it's a shame Nintendo hasn't revisited the format in years despite the potential. There is my list of the most visually pleasing games on the GBA. If you liked the video, I would appreciate a like, and if you want to see more, make sure you point your squirting granny directly at the subscribe button. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one.